here today to offer you a special presentation on Agile. We have a wonderful project manager named Indu who will be presenting today. As you can see by the information on the screen, Indu has many certifications, and she is more than able to deliver this presentation. So I welcome you, Indu, to discuss Agile methodologies. Please take it away.
Oh, thanks so much, Elaine. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I enjoy talking about project management, especially about the various Agile methodologies. So, why don't we get started? Coming to the Agile methodologies, let's go into a little bit of the history of the development of Agile. Yeah, all these new methodologies that we collectively called as Agile, they were originally developed by the Department of Defense and NASA. Now, both of them were actually developing this based on iterative principles. Now, when we hear the word iterative principles, what exactly is it? The meaning is this. Now, when you get started on doing any work, if you want to do any work, or when you want to carry out a project, there are two ways of doing it. One is you can think about the whole project, make a perfect plan, and then start executing on the plan that we have made. On the other hand, what we can do is we can take a little piece at a time, maybe divide the work into little portions, but each portion has a complete picture. At the end of that stage, if you go back and look at it, you will be able to see a complete picture. So that would be the meaning of iterative principles. You are doing a little piece of the work, and then you are improving on what you have done earlier. So let's see what is the actual difference between waterfall methodologies and Agile methodologies. Now, when we say waterfall, that means we are carrying out the project in a sequential way. So first of all, we get started with an idea. There cannot be any project which does not have an idea behind it. So we get started with an idea that will be called as the ideation phase. Next, we start thinking about the project. We think about what is the value that we are going to bring by carrying out this project. So that will be the initiation. Then next, we start planning on the project. So that would be called as the planning phase. Then we have the execution phase where we actually carry out the work. And after the execution phase, we monitor if we were able to do things according to plan. So that will be called in the waterfall world as the monitoring and controlling phase. And finally, we end the project with the closing phase. So as we can see, all these steps were carried sequentially. So first we started with the idea, then we did a plan, and then we started executing on the plan. After we started executing, we are making sure that it is in accordance with what we had originally planned. So that means we are monitoring the execution of our plan, and finally, when the project is over, we close the project. So that would be the waterfall world. So in other words, it falls like a waterfall, or they come sequentially. All the different stages come sequentially. In the world of Agile, it's a little bit different from what we have seen earlier. Now, in the Agile methodology, what we do is we carry out all these phases, but instead of these phases coming sequentially, we are going to do a little bit of initiation, a little bit of planning, a little bit of execution, a little bit of monitoring, and a little bit of closing, all at the same time. Or in other words, we are going to do a little portion of the work in each phase that we are undertaking. So coming to the Agile world now, when when NASA had originally come out with the process, that is what they had in mind, the way of doing things iteratively. That is the principle that they had in mind. But there are several other teams that have caught on to that way of thinking, and based on that, we have several types of agile methodologies. The first one is, of course, Scrum. Scrum is the most popular, and these days most people would actually equate agile methodologies with Scrum, but in fact it is only one of the family of agile methodologies. Then there is something else that is called as the dynamic systems development method. This is primarily for software development work. The third one would be extreme programming, or XP. There is a fourth one which is called crystal clear. Then there is a fifth one which is called lean management. Lean management is, of course, coming for all the manufacturing companies. There is one more called Kanban. Then there is Kaizen, etc. So as you can see from this slide, there are several types of agile methodologies. All these agile methodologies have something in common in that all of them are operating on an iterative principle. So what we will do is we will first take the largest one of them all, which will be the Scrum. And let's see what is actually Scrum. To give a little bit of background about Scrum, it was in the year 2001 that a group of lightweight methodologists came together in Utah. So they wanted to expand on this iterative principles. They sat down and they were discussing about what would be the best way to group all these principles together. And the result of that meeting was something called as the Agile Manifesto. So the Agile Manifesto was a product of that meeting held in 2001. And after the manifesto, we have something that came out of the same team, which was called as the principles. Now the principles support the manifesto. Now what do we mean by a manifesto? A manifesto is something that states what we are about to do. Like if you have a political party, before they get started on their election campaigning, they will come out with a manifesto. That means they are clearly stating what they have in mind and what do they want to see. So let's see what is the Agile Manifesto. Now in the Agile Manifesto, they have 4 sentences, and those are the ones that are mentioned here in the blue bullet points. I'm sorry, I just skipped one slide. These are the 4 sentences that are part of the Agile Manifesto. So let's take them one by one. The first thing that is stated in the Agile Manifesto is this. They're saying that the Agile methodologists value individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Now, what do we exactly mean by this? What the methodologists are saying is, in the waterfall world, now if you watch that sentence carefully towards the right, you can see the word processes and tools. In the waterfall world, we pay more attention to the processes that are going to happen and the tools that we are going to use. We are saying that the ideation phase comes first, followed by the planning phase, followed by the execution phase, etc. So we are giving more weightage to the process there. And we are saying, yes, I'm breaking it down into the work breakdown structure. This is how it needs to go. This is the sequence in which it needs to go. But whereas in the Agile world, individuals and interactions take precedence over processes and tools. Now, what do we mean by this? Here, they give more importance for face-to-face communication. They think that the business teams must interact every day with the development teams, because at the end of the day, they want to deliver value to the customer rather than getting hung up on a certain process or a tool. So that is the first statement that comes out of the Agile Manifesto. The second statement reads, working software over comprehensive documentation. Again, working software is having more value in the Agile world over writing pages and pages of a documentation. This is because in the waterfall world, more emphasis is given on documenting whatever we have done. Say, for example, we are in the requirements gathering phase in a waterfall project. Then in that project, we have to elicit the requirements from the stakeholders, and once we elicit all the requirements, it has to be put down in a document that is called as the Business Requirements Document, or the BRD. And this document has to be signed off by the respective stakeholders. In the Agile world, they say that we don't lay emphasis on this documentation. The proof of our planning and executing is in the software that we have actually produced. So they give more emphasis to the working software. In other words, if we say that we are working on building a website, that website has to work. Only then the work can be, it can produce value. Now, to give a practical example on this, you might have seen that in the recent years, if you buy a piece of furniture or software, the document that you get along with it is very slim. If you purchase a piece of furniture maybe 10 years ago, you would have seen a huge document that came with it. Or even if you purchased a car or an SUV about 10 years ago, you would have seen a huge booklet that came along with it called as the owner's manual, and it will tell you exactly what you need to do. But then later on, they discovered that not many people are actually going to read that thick volume. So they did away with all that documentation. And these days, if you buy some furniture or a car or an SUV, you will see that the booklet that comes with it is very, very slim. It has only a few pages. It's got some pictures in it, and it clearly states what you need to do to just get started. So that is an output that has come out of all these Agile methodologies. Now, the third statement of the manifesto reads, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Now, what do we mean by this third statement? Again, if we move to the right, we say that we don't want to give more emphasis on contract negotiation. Again, in the waterfall world, we have heard a lot about procurement documentation and all that. Now, in the Agile world, we believe that we need to collaborate extensively with the customer, because it is the customer who is actually asking us what we need to do on that particular project. So customer satisfaction is of utmost importance rather than signing a contract or holding somebody accountable to the contract. The last statement of the manifesto reads, responding to change over following a plan. Again, in the waterfall world, we said that we have extensive planning, and the planning process is followed by the execution process. So when we execute the project, we have to make sure that we follow the plan. And a lot of emphasis is laid on following the plan in the waterfall world. But in the Agile world, change is always welcome. Whereas in the waterfall world, if there is a change, there will be a process called as the change management process, where we need to issue a change request. We need to seek somebody's approval for carrying out the change, and then we go on with the project. Whereas here in the Agile world, change is always welcome. They know that changes are inevitable and those things have to happen. So here we deal with how to respond to change. So at the end of the day, the customer gets maximum value. Now, if you read the last line in the Agile Manifesto, it is stating that this implies while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. Now, this is called as the fine print of the manifesto. Even though the manifesto has only 4 statements, this is called as the 5th statement in the manifesto, because you will find a lot of questions based on the 5th line in the manifesto when you sit down for your PMI ACP exam. Now, now we have to be clear here about the 5th statement. Now, the 5th statement clearly states that the Agile methodologists are not saying that processes and tools are not important. They are not saying that you should not have any documentation, or they are not saying that we should not have any contract negotiation, or we should not have a plan. That is not the intention. The intention of all the Agile methodologists is this. They are stating that while process and tool is also important, we need to give more importance to individuals and interactions. More importance is given to working software. More importance is given to customer collaboration, and more importance is given to responding to change. So in the PMI ACP exam, if there will be a lot of questions which will be testing us on our knowledge of the Agile Manifesto, these 4 statements, as well as the 5th statement, which is here at the bottom of the slide. Now, the statements of the manifesto are explained further using the Agile principles. We have about 12 Agile principles, so let's go through them quickly. Now, the first Agile principle states that our highest priority is to satisfy the customer through early and continuous delivery of valuable software. So here, according to the first principle, customer satisfaction is of utmost importance. So we need, at every step of the game, we need to make sure the customer is satisfied, because if there was no customer, there will not be a project. The second principle states that we welcome changing requirements even late in development. Agile processes harness change for the customer's competitive advantage. This is because the Agile methodologists think that the time to market in this rapid software development age is very much less. So we need to enable the customer to compete in the marketplace. Due to that, we need to make sure that we are welcoming changes in their requirements so as to give them a competitive, so as to give the customers a competitive advantage in the marketplace. The third principle states that we have to deliver working software frequently, from a couple of weeks to a couple of months, with a preference to the shorter time scale. Now, what do we mean here? It is this. We need to take a little piece of the work, we need to work on it and show it to the customer, or in other words, demo it to the customer, so we can be sure that we are having the right approach here. The fourth principle states that business people and developers must work together daily throughout the project. This means all the stakeholders involved in the project must communicate constantly throughout the project, so that way we can resolve any ambiguity. Continuing with the Agile principles, the next one, the 5th one, states that we have to build projects around motivated individuals. And here we are moving away from the waterfall world. In the waterfall world, the project manager would come and direct the team to do the work that they have been assigned, whereas in the Agile world, the teams are empowered. Here, the project manager does not tell the team what to do. In other words, they choose the work. And they are supposed to be finishing the work, and it is not the Scrum Master or the project manager's responsibility to tell them what to do. The 6th principle reads that the most efficient and effective method of conveying information to and within a development team is face-to-face conversation. So here, the Agile world places more emphasis on face-to-face conversation or face-to-face communication. Here, they want the stakeholders to be in constant contact with each other, so that way everybody is aware of what is happening in the project. The seventh principle reads that working software is the primary measure of progress. Now, in the Agile world, our success is measured by how well the software is able to work and how well the customer is able to leverage this working piece of software. So this is how progress is measured in the Agile world, whereas in the waterfall world, progress is measured on how well we actually worked according to the plan that we made in the beginning of the project. Coming to the eighth principle, it states that Agile processes promote sustainable development. The sponsors, developers, and users should be able to maintain a constant pace indefinitely. Now, since the teams pick the work that they want to do, we are expecting them to have a sustainable pace. So we want the teams to pick the work only that they can do, whereas in the waterfall world, since the project manager hands it to them, they cannot pick the work that they want to do. Coming to the last set of principles, the ninth one reads that continuous attention to technical excellence and good design enhances agility. In other words, in the Agile methodology, we have to give more importance to excellent work. Our product has to speak for itself. The customer has to be happy with the product we are delivering to them. Coming to the next principle, the 10th one, it states, simplicity, the art of maximizing the amount of work not done, is essential. This is actually coming from the lean Agile principles. In the lean world, we concentrate on the work not done. Let's say, for example, we are starting on this project of cleaning up the attic. We have taken a little project for the weekend and we want to clean up the attic. How often have we come across something like, say, a box of photographs and we got carried away? So that means we originally started with the intention of cleaning out the attic, but we got sidetracked when we looked at the photographs and we got carried into another world. So that means the original project was never done. So here in the lean world, we are asked to concentrate on the work that is not going to be on the work that is not going to be done. Or in other words, if you want to clean the attic, you should not concentrate on looking at the photographs. So that means we have to stop doing the things which are not going to produce a value. The 11th principle states that the best architectures, requirements, and designs emerge from self-organizing teams. Again, in the Agile world, the teams are self-empowered, or they can pick their own work according to their capacity. So here they are supposed to pick the work that they can do, and accordingly they would complete the work. Now, coming to the the last Agile principle, we state that at regular intervals, the team reflects on how to become more effective, then tunes and adjusts its behavior accordingly. This is the period of retrospection, when we actually take a break and look at what we have done, what was achieved, what are the things that went well, what are the things that can be improved, or that those are the things that didn't go too well. In other words, it is like the lessons learned that we do in a waterfall world, except that in the Agile world, this period of retrospection is done periodically. It's not just done at the end of the project. At the end of the project, like in the waterfall world. Instead, we actually do it at regular intervals. So these are the Agile principles which are supporting the manifesto that we discussed earlier. Now, when we started this presentation, we were talking about incremental delivery. Now, what do we mean by incremental delivery? We stated earlier that we are having different phases when we carry out a project. Like, first of all, we get started with the analysis. We are finding out what is the need for this particular project. Why should we actually do this? What is the business need? Or what is the market need for this? And then we get started on the design. After the design, after the key stakeholders approve the design, we get started on the coding part of the work. And then we test the code that we have done. And finally, we deploy the code. Now, in this particular slide, you can see that all these different processes are happening in parallel, and that is what is meant by incremental delivery. If I want to do a project, first of all, I will split it into different pieces. I will take the first piece, and for that piece, I will do an analysis, design, code, test, as well as deploy, all at the same time before moving to the next piece. Whereas in the waterfall world, I will do analysis, I will completely do the analysis, then I will do the design, then we'll go for the coding, test, deployment, etc. In the waterfall world, all these different steps will be done in a sequence, whereas in the agile world, they are done incrementally or they are done in parallel. Now, there are some other features of agile which are also important. The first is we are placing more importance on the value delivered by this project, by accomplishing this project or completing this project, rather than the constraints that we might face on the project, or we are looking at the positive enhancements that we are going to make in the project rather than concentrate on the negative aspects of the project. The second feature, the most important feature of Agile, is that the project manager or the Scrum Master is actually going to set an example to the team by leading the team. The project manager is going to be a leader here rather than a manager, or the project manager will never command the team on what needs to be done. They are expected to do it on their own. The third most important feature of Agile is that here changes are always welcome. So we concentrate here on adapting ourselves to change rather than conforming to a plan that we made earlier. Now, coming to the PMI ACP exam, the exam itself is divided into two sections, which will be Agile knowledge and skills. So whatever we discussed earlier on would be falling under the Agile knowledge and skills area. If you know the manifesto and the principles very well, you can do this section. You can get a very good score in the first section, which is Agile knowledge and skills. Now, we will be discussing the tools and techniques in the later part of the training program. Coming to the eligibility requirements, PMI has stringent eligibility requirements for the exam. They want 2,000 hours of project work. Now, in case you have a PGMP or a PMP, that certification will count for the 2,000 hours. If not, you will have to show that you have real-world project experience for 2,000 hours. In addition to that, we also need to show 1,500 hours of project experience work on just Agile projects. So those are some of the eligibility requirements. Now, if you need more information, you can always visit the PMI website. You can go to the certifications link, and then you can look at the handbook that will give you a more idea about this particular exam. So that was what I had for today. So Elaine, once again, thank you very much for giving me an opportunity to speak about the Agile methodologies. So would you have any questions?
No, this was quite good. I took some notes.
Okay.
This is probably my second Agile course, so I will need to compare the notes in order to give you some questions to actually have onto the recording. But Indu, I wanted to thank you so much for being on the recording, and those who are listening, I invite you to stay posted. We have more recordings and more trainings that are coming forth. And if you are looking for more information from Indu, definitely contact her. Her information is at the very bottom. You can see Indu S at Web Train Trinity, New York City, WVTRAINERNYC.gmail.com. And or you can send a note to John Roy at HolisticPMC.com, and we will get right back to you with information on how you can sign up for Agile training. So with that, Indu, thank you so much, and we look forward to more information from you.
Well, thanks again, Elaine.
You're welcome.